Earlier today, he said he's going to try to get in here, so we are in work session for our meeting set up for August the 20th, which will be our final meeting in August, and we'll call this one to order, and we have, I don't see him here yet, so we were going to have a presentation by Derek Aaron from the museum, and I saw him at the Walmart grand opening this morning and confirmed with him, but maybe it was a timing issue. So what we will do then is we will go into our agenda. I had just asked him to come give us a little bit of an update on the museum and what it's up to and that sort of thing. But let's go ahead and go into our agenda, and we'll start that and break when he comes in, if that's okay with everybody. So we have a couple of sets of minutes here. Mr. Huskisson, you're all good with that? Where's Ms. Harden? We lost her too.
Everybody's at Walmart.
Well,
everybody was this morning.
Walmart had their grand reopening today, and it was pretty well attended, and it looks great. They spent $14 million on that on that building and on the parking lot, etc. And so the mood was great, the enthusiasm was great. So hopefully everyone will get a chance to go to see it before all is said and done. Lisa, we have gone on into this because my presentation person is not here yet. So.
I thought I had an extra agenda.
Okay.
My stats on here.
Okay. We're all good? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. All right. So we've got two sets of minutes here. Ms. Harden, you're good with those? Mr. Huskisson, do we want to do consent on those two sets of agenda items? Okay. Consent for those. We've got people to introduce, which is always fun to do, and any comments that anybody wants to have actually put on the agenda schedule at this point. None? Okay, we'll move on. Public appearances, nothing. Citizens' comments, I'm sure we'll have some. And public hearings, we have, this will be our first opportunity to do our lot mowings that the board approved the authorized representatives for last time. So we will be allowing them, this would be someone who would come forward who would be on that list and who's been notified. If they want to talk to us about this is their opportunity to do so. Second public hearing in consideration of adopting the ordinance on criminal loitering and aggressive solicitation. So we have had one public hearing, and we will have an opportunity to consider it this time after we have this next public hearing.
Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Back on the mowing thing, what is the inducement for people who have gotten to the point where they're not cleaning up their property? What is the inducement for them to clean the property up where we don't have to do it and pay incur the cost, the expense to do that? And I know, does it just end up on taxes or what?
Yes.
How do we recoup the cost?
That's how we do it. It gets put on the tax lien. And if you want to skip over to in the program, we'll get to the item A under mayor's business, which is a consideration of the revised agreement with the county tax assessor to allow them to actually put it on the tax bill that they send out every year. So it will be part of that municipal tax collection. So we've actually gone, our other contract with them did not state that. Our other interlocal with them did not actually state that. So I sat with the tax collector, Ms. Walker, and she was agreeable to put that on there as a point because it is in the law that we can do that. So that's what
well, how do we figure, I guess, Mr. Smiley's department figures out what's this stuff cost per.
We're going to do a flat rate of $250 with a $50 administration fee. So that's what's allowed by statute. So.
While we're there, walk us through how the process will be, because I saw the list in the packet, and it's a pretty extensive list. Does that have to come to the board for approval? I thought that you.
No, what we are doing is we're short-circuiting the 10-day, the 14-day notice, the 10-day notice, but the board still has to bless that these are the ones. And what's going to happen is, if I see it, if the code folks see it, if anybody else sees it and sends us to it, we'll send the code out to do that. They take a picture, they send them a notice, they post it, and then it comes to the board. And this is the opportunity under that public hearing for somebody to say, no, wait, hold it. But I've asked the code enforcement folks to, that morning of the board meeting, Tuesday morning, to go take a picture of the current status of those lots, so that if anybody comes and says, well, I've done it, as of this morning, you did not. So we will have that information at the ready. And then the board just blesses it, and we go out the next day or the day after and mow.
So the 7 day is the notice period.
Yes.
It's still possible that if something was identified tomorrow morning, well, the Wednesday after a board meeting, and it had to go onto this list and get back to the board, it's still possibly a 14-day.
Well, in the
period.
sense of it goes in between our board
Yeah,
meetings,
yeah.
yes.
But
we don't have to notice
we
them.
don't have to do all that
Yes,
notification. So,
yes.
Okay.
How, well, I guess social media and the newspaper, they do it for us. How we disseminate the information that we're about to institute?
We send them a letter, they get a letter.
Well, yeah, but make it public, make a big deal out of it, that we're about to start cutting people's property charges $250. And, you know, I don't know, but I mean, this kind of stuff is starting rampant, you know? And it's just this bad looking property, all of, not, well, certain parts of town less than others, but, an article in the paper about the condition of good building.
Well, they actually did one, a while back, last week, I think, when we introduced this. The paper did do coverage on it, but we can certainly get an article, specific article done on it if you
Maybe
like.
the first one we do, we had to mow. We did a picture of it mowing the thing and say, tell them exactly how much it's gonna cost every one of these folks that won't take care of their property or something.
All right, well, let me see about getting some,
If newspapers do that.
okay.
Raise awareness that the city gonna step in and start trying to clean this.
Well, I hope the
stuff.
awareness is gonna be there, but we can certainly heighten the focus, how about that?
I thought you were advocating going back to Victorian shaming, which I'm okay with.
Put some stocks out
I
there.
know last week alone, I had 14 phone calls about yards, so I really want this to go through because it needs to. 14 phone calls last week alone.
Yeah, the hope is that it will create situations where they go take care of them.
Yes.
And I think over time, that hopefully will happen by word of mouth, that we're serious about this.
If it doesn't instill private ownership, it'll be a shame, it's called a shaming thing. I mean, one of those, you know, but just for folks to start kind of upping the game and taking care of the property.
Yes,
I think that's a good-
hopefully it will have some impact.
Sure.
So, okay, cool, thank you. All right, so next is Mr. Haviland. We have two public hearings. One is for a use exception for a manufactured classroom at Starkville High School, and then the other one is a use exception for Emerson Family School. Will you give us a little bit of a preview on all
They
that?
want to reuse the manufactured classrooms they currently have sitting over here. They want to put with both of those locations, and so that's part of use exception. At the planning and zoning meeting, they tabled it the first time, they needed additional information. They came back with that information, and they recommended approval with conditions. It's 3 conditions for the high school. One involves floodplain, there's floodplain issues there. It's screening of the units and then the duration that they're allowed. And for the Emerson location, it's just screening and duration, because there's no floodplain issues at that location.
Okay, all right, but both of those obviously are going to be public hearings, so there's nothing we can do about that other than know that what's happening, and those guys did approve them. Was it unanimous?
Yes, it was.
Okay, all right, so whatever they wanted last time they came back and did?
Yeah, there was, they needed information on the occupancy load, the duration was going to be there, and they needed a plan on how to rinse. So,
Okay. All right, thank you. And then we will have the first public hearing on the tax millage and budget for the city of Starkville for our fiscal year 24-25. So this is the part, I know I sent everybody out an email. I wanted to kind of give you a heads up that I wanted to discuss this again, because I did not understand, and my comment from the last board meeting was, I felt stupid, which I did, because I did not understand that we had gone from 20 to 10. I thought we'd gone from 40 cameras, and you cut it in half, and you do 20 cameras for next year. And so that was not the case, and it was my misunderstanding and my bad, because I thought that this board, back when we had the camera discussion, when we were going to, do an ordinance that required commercial properties to provide cameras on their facilities, which I thought was a good idea at the time, but this is a better idea, because then we put them on places that are in the community, that are controlled by the city, that are easier to access, and we don't have to worry about the commercial property, and it covers the entire city. So between Mr. Clements and the police chief, we got to the point where we determined we needed 40 cameras to cover the city in its entirety, to the extent that the police are comfortable. And so that dollar figure came up to $280 on an annualized.
Police personnel and
Right.
equipment.
And so the 140 piece of it, I thought we had gotten to, again, I went from 40 to 20 for a half. My bad. But I say all that to say I really would like to revisit getting 20 cameras next year, which means we are still shy the 10 cameras and a person. And so if there's no appetite to do that, y'all can tell me, but I just want to make sure that we're clear, because we did talk about doing cameras all over town as a part of that, and the very fact that we can't deliver 40 at any one time makes it reasonable that we cut it back to 20, but I'd really rather not have to cut it back to 10. So I'm asking the board is there some appetite to reconsider that the 140 or whatever it was that it would take to bring the 10 and a person back? So y'all can shoot me down all you want to, but just let me know, because that's what my concern is, that we aren't going to be able to get a full 20 and the other 2 people in
How
order
much
to make that
net
work.
money, additional money?
It was 140,
Have you
and
looked-
we had gotten down to 85 after the 140 was gone. Is that correct? I'm still flowing that right. So we got down to 85, but again, I would have fought for it had I realized that the 140 was taking away 20 cameras.
So
or
we're
10 cameras.
85,000 short,
We-
being
well,
able to do
we-
half or do what you had thought we were gonna do.
Right, we were still 85, and y'all worked, you took 50 here and you did that, and we got away from the 85 so that there was no millage increase. But again, my bad, I didn't realize that left 140 on the table for that other 10 cameras and that other person. So I'm coming back asking, is there some appetite for us to reconsider the 140 to go ahead and cover the cost of the other 10 cameras and the...
Have you looked in the budget to see where we get the money? Or based on
Well-
what we proposed budget?
Well, there are numerous places that you can cut back. You can, and none of them I like, because from my perspective, I think the raises ought to go in October 1. There was some capital improvement money that we had out there.
The two places that are, because I think you need to be looking at new services. The cameras are new services, and if you're taking something away, I think you need to be taking away other new services. I don't think you ought to be cutting into operations, which would be the raises for employees and that sort of thing. So the 2 things that are new services, one would be we increased the funding for capital outlay for the general fund, and that was in
By how
part
much?
about $100,000, and in part that was to cover upgrades to signalization around town, which I think we all agree is much needed, and a project that is going to take years to get implemented, but you've got to get started sometime. So that's one. The other is the SAFER grant that we budgeted $60,000 for the SAFER grant. In case we do get that and we have unreimbursed expenses related to the SAFER grant. So those would be the 2 new services that I would think you might consider switching for the cameras. But I would focus on new services. I don't think we want to get into cutting existing operations or personnel.
So the signal, okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Without a millage increase?
Yes.
I mean, if that's where we want to get to, and again, I kind of go back to when our discussion when we first started this about the cameras, that everyone was willing to see that as a worthwhile use of a millage increase if we needed to. But if we, can work our way, signalization, for example, you put $100,000 in there for signalization?
Well,
We could conceivably half it. How much signalization work can we get done if we have to 50 instead of 100, for example?
Signals are around 16 to 20 apiece as far as what we have.
Okay, so you might be able to get 2, 3?
So what does that new deal that Lynn Lane and dumpster cost us with the cameras?
So that setup is 16,000, more or less. And you get a camera and then some data. Now you can spend more, about 15,000 more, to really get some of the AI timings and the auto adjust. So that's something to consider. But you can at least get the camera and all of the data collection for about 16 per intersection.
But we're using the existing lines, signal.
Using the existing signal, yes, sir. It's a camera and then a processor to get the data.
Okay.
But the thing that the general public will notice is when we can start to use it for timing purposes.
That's
And
right.
that's that's really probably what gets lost in the
Timing
shuffle.
and detection, both. I think sometimes you need detection versus timing.
Okay. Okay. Well, you know, anybody?
This could boil down to what prioritization of that or prioritization of these district cameras. That's what we got to make a decision on.
Well, I would say that, and I don't know, from the Safer Grant standpoint, I don't know how soon that would come to fruition, if it did, period. But from an expenditure standpoint, I think that, I don't know what our chances are. Do we have anybody handicapping our chances? No. No? So,
They announce those awards every Friday. They announced awards on August 2nd. They didn't announce any awards last Friday. So, and they will complete the process by early October, I think, is the timing.
okay. All right. Well,
That's the grant, staff, 5.
yeah,
Yes.
that's the staffing is there. The staffing is taken care of. This is for the additional, whatever
The
additional.
unreimbursed
Unreimbursed.
expenses, which
Yeah.
would be reopening Station 5, promotions related to reopening Station 5, that sort of thing.
What's the $500,000 grant? What's the grant amount there? $500,000, cheap,
It was 9.
900,
And then, close to the
and our match is what you're talking about.
No,
No,
there's
we
no
don't have to
match.
match at
There's no
all.
match. They will only pay for 9 new firemen. They will not pay for any additional expenses.
Like promotions is what she was talking
So
about.
that's where
So
that's
if,
where it's going to come in.
yes, it would, if we reopen Fire Station 5 for one shift, you could put 3 new firemen out there, but you're gonna have to promote somebody to be over those, and they won't pay for those promotions. They won't pay for additional utilities or operations cost out there and all that sort of thing.
Somebody gonna give me some feedback? Yes, sir.
So my position stays the same, just on principle. I think we showed that we could do this to some extent without raising taxes, and I look at a millage increase as a last resort, not an opportunity. And if we can do this without a tax increase, then to me, the tax increase looks like an opportunity, and it doesn't go away. So it's I have seen very few boards repeal tax increases once they're made. So it's something we just keep paying for, and I think we have shown we can get there without it, so my position won't change.
Well, we can't get there, we can't get to 20 cameras and an
No,
extra
but we
officer
can
without
start the
it.
process, and we can do 10 cameras, which will be 10 more than we had last year, and we can balance the budget, and it's not a big increase, but it's a principle. I think everybody's feeling things in their pocketbook, and the fact that we know we can do this to some degree without increasing the amount that our taxpayers pay, I think that's, to me, the responsible thing to do. I think a tax increase should not be an opportunity, it should be a last resort, and this is not a last resort. We don't need to do this. That's just my
No,
opinion.
see, I do think we need to do that, but that's okay. Go
How
ahead.
many cameras do we have on 182? Police
On
cameras?
182, I don't have that answer. Joel, do you know how many we have on 182?
We have Starkville 182, one West Point. There's not a ton on 182 right now, so just these two. But I can do that.
Okay. And as the 182 project comes along, we will be adding
Right, we've been,
cameras for that, but,
engineering heavily about
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I was asking because I didn't know if we could move maybe those, and then with the money we received for the 182 project, if that would be considered part of.
Well, we're gonna be
improvements.
adding them to the 182 project. Of course, that was, that you're 2 years,
Yeah.
3 years to
Out.
get down the road on that one, so, okay.
I thought we'd gone beyond the point of return on what, at the last meeting, we approved by resolution the intent to publish our budget with a no tax.
No, we haven't. We haven't.
We
We can
can
still
go-
publish again. No, we can publish again. And which is the reason if we couldn't publish again, I wouldn't bring it up, because then it would just be, that'd be silly. I don't want to stir a pot just to be stirring a pot. I wanted to bring it up because I was still concerned, and I had misunderstood, so I wanted to make sure everybody else clearly understood, and if the comfort level with 10 going forward is where the board is, then so be it. I can be wrong. I mean, I can make my position known, and that would be the end of it.
So can I ask, what would happen if our sales tax increase is much more than we thought? And we've had some months like that. Why couldn't we incrementally buy more cameras for $7,000 a pop? We still have a balanced budget. We see we have more money coming in, we buy a couple more cameras as we can afford them.
Well, and
There's a couple of issues with that one. Absolutely. If those numbers go through the roof, that's a possibility. We've been very aggressive in budgeting for sales tax numbers this year. The last time we were aggressive in budgeting for sales tax numbers, we missed by $300,000. So I would be reluctant to count on that being where that additional money will come from. The other thing that is difficult is that this is a year where we are limited in what we can do and when we can do it in terms of budget amendments, and when we can spend money.
because we're in the last year of our term.
So we can only spend from April to June, we can only spend 25% of our budgeted items. So even if we had an increase in there, we can't exceed that amount. Yeah, and then the new board next year can only make one budget amendment the last 3 months of the year. So this is a year where budgeting becomes a little less flexible than it usually is.
And I'll interrupt, in the first month, the end of Ms. Corbin, we go on the state fiscal year, we go on our federal. What fiscal year are we operating on? If we're on a state fiscal year, we're getting our second sales tax check or sales tax diversion. What do we, I mean, I never know whether we start July 1 or we start, I know for budget purposes, we start on October 1st, but.
It's 2 months behind, so the first one in October will be the August elections.
And we get that check every month.
Right, but I did notice that whatever one it is, it's 2 months arrears, it's flat. It's flat.
Well, we went up this past month.
Not general sales tax.
Just a jibble.
I mean, no, I mean, it's.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm saying
pocket change.
2% went up.
It didn't go 2%. Not
No,
this
the
month.
2% went up.
The 2%, but not our general sales
Yes.
tax.
It was-
And the other thing is that, and, you know, we got bids that are gonna come in the next 30 days on the library for an air conditioning unit that's gonna go through the, I can say through the roof. I don't know.
Or on the roof.
I'll go on the roof, but they are gonna be very expensive, and we're gonna get sticker shock on that. But in conversations with our librarian, he's concerned about, we have a lot of temporary units down there, a lot of window units, we've got 2 of the and stuff, and then we're getting by from a comfort level. He's concerned somewhat, and I won't put words in my mouth too much, but libraries have an issue that, not necessarily that our house is not condensation, but humidity and stuff on books and things, and it's a real issue going forward about not having the adequate amount of air conditioning to move air through that building, and what it'll do long term to those thousands of books that we have down there and stuff. So I mean, I don't know, and we may there again, we're gonna come up and get a low bid of whatever it is, $350,000, $400,000, and try to figure, and we'll be back at this table figuring out how we're gonna afford to put air conditioning on the roof. And I don't know, maybe we Band-Aid it through the next spring or something like that. But if we don't have any money in the budget, Mayor.
Yeah, I'm listening. I just wanted to see if she had put it.
We'll be in the same shape next March as we are right now. There's no budget money for that library thing. And I don't know, can we borrow money? I mean, how can we do that on Sister Trunk? I mean,
We had accounted for how we were going to pay for that this year, so we'd set aside that money for this year, and it will roll over to next year.
So
now, if it
so
goes
it's still in the budget.
so
Okay,
if
that's
it
what I
will be
thought.
considerably more than what we thought it would be, then we've got a gap. But we had accounted.
well, I said bid. We're not bidding.
Yeah,
We're bidding,
we
right?
advertised
We missed
for it.
emergency or something.
Yeah.
So
When's it due to drop?
I have a pre-bid construction meeting Tuesday morning at 9 at the library, and I've already had 3 companies reach out that'll be there. And then the bids will be 2 to 3 weeks after that.
Ms. Harden, this is for that. That's for this that 30-ton. We're not making changes
Yes,
on
30 ton.
on the type of unit we use.
Because it was cheaper to go with the 30 ton, go back with the 30 ton, than to re-up the whole building.
Gotcha.
So my 3rd time back.
Yes, we've gone back and forth.
As long as you got that in the book, I'm sorry, I'll defer. You got that much in the budget.
It will roll forward from this year into next year.
Is that 350? Is that what you ended up
That
putting in?
that was what we were shooting for.
Well, that's what we had roughly heard was going to be the amount, so, okay. Okay, well, again, I would not have brought it up had we been outside the window when we could advertise, so I will say that. Yes, ma'am.
So I would like to say that I too would like to see us get the 20 additional cameras, and if possible, the extra person. But I think the cameras are very important, and if we're not going to consider a tax increase, then I do think we should take it from some of those other new services, the signalization and the SAFER grant.
Okay.
So split it and take 30 from the SAFER grant, take 100 from capital outlay, and then the whatever the effect of delaying the mayor and board of aldermen raises are to July 1st, which is when we typically would do those raises for the incoming board. That will get us to close. It will get us 135 or so.
That's close.
And I'll even piggyback on what she said. I don't feel comfortable taking a pay raise on the Board of Aldermen if we're, first of all, struggling to make a budget. I know it's not a lot of money, but it's the principle of it. I don't feel, that's just where I stand on that. I don't feel comfortable doing that and shorten a department for something that they need to run. I don't feel comfortable with that.
And the work Robert focused on is a pretty good part-time gig. What we get paid.
I'm embarrassed to ask this, what do we get paid?
I don't know. How embarrassing is that to answer? So.
What number are we talking about here?
It's not a lot, it's just the principle.
The increase is about $1,000.
No,
It's
I
not,
think-
it's not significant. It
No,
isn't.
it's about 400 each, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about,
Yes, for the.
But, okay, so that leaves us with no pay increase if the board is willing to
Delay that.
readjust those numbers. So that would be a different budget. How would that be reflected if our advertising remains the same then? So it would be just an adjustment within the
Line items.
line items. Okay. Is that something anybody has heartburn anywhere, any there?
I mean,
and I hate to give up the signalization project. I honestly do. I think that's.
Well, and those are like 1 camera, 2 camera, 3 camera. We could buy them, like you're talking about buying those cameras, we could conceivably go in and do that.
at the rate we had budgeted, Mayor, how long was it gonna take us to fully implement this?
Which were we talking about, the signalization?
No.
The
Everything's all paid way
cameras?
back to what we budgeted and what you had some
Two
misunderstanding
years.
about. How long would it have taken us?
It would have been 2 years. It would have been
2
20
years we
cameras.
fully implemented?
Yeah, it'd be 20 cameras 1 year and 20
Personnel
cameras.
and cameras?
Yes. and
But
20
that's what we had budgeted and we were ready to pass the budget to do? Or were we mistaken or something?
No, I was mistaken. I thought we had planned for 20 and 20, and instead, Alderman Sistrunk, in trying to make the budget match, had taken the 20 and turned it to 10. So we would then be at, depending on how we handle it, we'd be at 10, 10, 10, and 10 to get to the 40, as opposed to 20.
4 years, no, it's
Yeah,
not 2 years.
20 and 20.
On equipment. anyway.
Yes.
And personnel, would we have gotten the fully personal?
2 years, probably
now.
still on the personnel.
So, okay. So, everybody clear on my
we on-
error?
yeah, are we on the same
my
page
error?
on this
Yeah,
one going
so,
forward?
Comfort level with doing it differently? Swizzling it differently? Signalization
Same
versus,
money, switch some money
yeah,
around.
okay. All
So
right.
nobody gets complained about having to sit at a red light.
The amounts that were.
I don't
Oh.
care, 12
Just
anyway.
so- Okay.
Lisa's got it. Okay, all right, good deal. We will leave that alone, and I appreciate your indulgence on the discussion and focusing on the cameras. Thank you very much. All right, under Mayor's business, this is the revised contract for the Oktibbeha County Tax Assessor's Office, which we brought up as it relates to the mowing. This has modified to a certain extent, but the primary purpose of it, we gave them, it was at $60,000, we upped it to $65,000. And with this additional information that she's going to put on the tax rolls, so that when she sends out a municipal tax bill, it will, or the tax bill, it will include the liens that we will have put on whatever business or whatever entity we've mowed for. So, okay, that's what that's for. So unless there's further discussion or concerns about it, I would suggest that that's an opportunity for a consent item. Anybody? Okay. All right, memorandum of understanding, actual, this is Edwards, where are you? There you are. This is the memorandum of understanding for the aerator improvements project. Anything in particular about this one? It's just something we have to execute for the aerators.
The deadline for the MCWI obligation is the
End
end
of-
of this month.
end of August, yeah.
End of August, so this MOU will suffice this board's
Yeah,
obligation.
so I am promising to y'all that we will pay it, which I find to be a bizarre way to do this, but this is exactly what they said needed to happen between the mayor and the board of aldermen for obligating these funds, so.
I stand by, it sounds made up.
It
but
does,
okay.
doesn't it? Can we do consent on that one?
Yes.
All right, thank you. And then the pay raises, okay, this is me again, and this is my own personal principle that puts me out here doing this. I do think that elected officials are different than normal salaried employees who work, every day. And so I would like, as elected officials, I would like us to be broken out from, when we approve pay increases for ourselves, I would like that to be broken out differently than lumped in the salaries that go into a budget. So that's the reason for this. And what I'm suggesting, we've already had one pay raise during this term of alderman. So what I'm suggesting is that the next pay raise becomes effective for the next term. So when the next board is seated, they will get that effective pay raise at the first pay period after that, after everybody gets sworn in. So that's what I am asking the board to consider doing differently. And that also saves, I don't know, what, $3,000 or something? It's not a, it isn't much.
Maybe. Yeah.
That's July 25.
Yes, sir.
August or July
It's
25.
the next election. But we've
Yeah,
already,
well,
July 1.
July 1's when people sworn in, and then.
yes, so it'd be the
in
first pay
July.
period after that, so. But that is what we had done in the past, basically, was wait. If you gave yourself a pay raise, and Vice Mayor, you got a lot of history with this, you waited till the next pay raise to come until the next board term was seated.
Well, you're correct, Mayor, and I respond to a lot of your inquiry. There's rich history on it. We have done it consistently since '93, except for during this term when the pay raise went effective on October 1. So from 1993 until then, we've always, the board made it effective July 1 for the next term, and the philosophy back then consistently was, without any deviation, was for it to be viewed that the board did not give itself any pay increase where the perception, which legally could be made and was made, that it was for not the sitting board and for the next board.
Right, so, and that's.
Including the mayor.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. A mayor's elected official. It may be a full-time job, but it's still an elected position. So that's my suggestion, and that's my request for consideration by the board. Somebody want further discussion on that? Anybody want to talk about it?
Optics.
Well,
If this board is 75%, can you be 75% of seven people? Yeah, you said not quite, but it'd be a half
Or
person.
75% of 8 people?
That'd be 5.3 people. So, but I mean, if we retain 5 or 6, whatever alderman, next board, and we know that's just probably head that way, chief executive, things like that, we are effectively voting ourselves a pay raise.
well, that will be determined by the electors.
Right,
So,
right.
Well, at least that's what we can explain it.
yes. So,
I don't
Thoughts?
I don't have an opinion more though.
okay. All right. Well, we will leave it off consent and vote on it at that time. Okay. All right. There is currently no board business. So, community development, Mr. Hadlin, you're back up.
Yes, the first one has a landscape waiver for site contractors that did the work for Walmart. We've requested to use rock instead of organic mulch. In our code, it's required to use organic mulch, rock is not allowed in the code. During site plan review, they showed hardwood mulch in the approved site plans. During the permit review, they showed hardwood mulch on the approved permit set. Then the contractor took it upon himself to use rock. And so once we issued a stop work order, prevent him from being boarded out, then he requested a landscape waiver. So that's part of this process.
And the landscape board denied it.
Minutes, we denied it.
Was it unanimous?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So basically, it is whatever the board wishes to do, but this will be one of those can't be put on consent because the applicant has an opportunity to come speak to us. So this is, it is not a public hearing, but they do have an opportunity to come and make a presentation.
Correct.
So,
They came and got a permit from us and showed us what they were gonna do, and it said mulch, and all of a sudden it shows up rock.
Correct.
Yeah.
And all that information's been a staff report from the
Yeah.
approved site plan and from the permit set.
yeah, so. And it was, yes.
How much, I mean, I've been out there, I mean, the parking lot overall looks good, but I don't see, there's no mulch in most of it. But how much rock did they actually put out? I didn't see any.
Good
I
bit.
remember as they were doing it, they were sort of phasing it, they were phasing from the north to the south.
Okay.
So the north section is where they started with the rock, and that's where we noticed.
Yeah, there you go, pictures right
And
there.
then the stop work order was issued, that's right when we noticed, that was on the 23rd of June, I believe. And so stop work order was issued sometime after that, and then they continued, we notified them of the issue, and they continued in the stop work order.
That's what's gonna happen, right?
Yeah. And that's the problem,
That's what's gonna
yeah,
happen.
yeah.
Did they give a reason as to why they decided to unilaterally make a change?
I think it was the contractor.
No maintenance that you put that down, it's rock.
Not true.
I mean, grass will grow in it, but it's not like having.
He's got a little presentation.
Yeah,
Hey, what?
He's got a little presentation he'll give you that's based off of Google search.
well, and in my conversation, because I was the one who talked to him after we issued the stop work order to say that, you just can't go forward, come put in for your request. And he said they were doing it in other parts of the country, and that was, he did it because that's where they were doing it for Walmart and other parts of the country, so. Yes, ma'am.
So the landscape board denial was based on the fact that the rocks are gonna make it more difficult for the plants to survive?
It was based mainly off the fact that the ordinance does not allow for it.
Okay, and the ordinance doesn't allow for it
Their
because?
background and their education and their occupations, they all completely agree rock could be used.
Unless you prep and plant for rock, because the mayor has a strip. that
Calling me
is-
out, aren't you?
Yeah, she has a strip that is hardscaped, that has rocks, that
Yes.
the plants are doing great.
Which means
but
I'm
they're-
violating our ordinance.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
You were
okay.
grandfathered in.
So am mine, I think he calls my property out, so, yeah.
So,
We're on the same
but,
page.
but the,
What you're speaking of is xeriscape. Xeriscape in the southeast does not call for rock. You can do a rock garden with like cactus type plants and stuff, that's fine, but if you're gonna use it in our ordinance, it calls for native type material, and native type material doesn't grow rock.
okay, and our ordinance
Yes, and we're working.
postdates your.
We're working.
Yes, and we're working to try to find a way to allow some of that under certain circumstances. But in the meantime, yes, I may be grandfathered, but
grandfathered in.
I'm outside the ordinance, so I'm all here, so.
Sorry.
All right, no, that's okay, that's all right. It was gonna come up at some point anyway. So, anyway, we don't get to do a consent on it because they do get an opportunity to make a presentation, so. And the next item is final plat.
That's just the final plat for the Columbia District. What we're basically doing is just carving off the building that's on the road. There's a gentleman who wants to purchase it, I believe he's doing some individual storage facility, but that's it.
Okay, any issues with it?
No, we went through site plan review, or plat review with PRC, they did 2 iterations, and got to one person.
Okay, all right. Any concerns with consent on that one? Okay, all right. Okay, claims docket, we can move past. July financials, anything about the July financials we need to know, Ms. Harden? Okay, okay, all right, consent for that one, okay. HR, we've got hiring part-time dispatcher, entry-level firefighters, and a meter technician. Those are all, where's Greg? There he is. Oh, those are all just replacement positions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Consent for those? Okay, all right, thank you. And then parks, okay, Ethos Contracting, and just so you know, this should be a familiar name, which I'm excited for him, Jacob Forrester. Used to work for Starkville Utilities, is Ethos Contracting, and they had the best bid on that. So there he is. Mr. Kackelman is going to give us just a little brief idea of what they're bidding on and what McKee is going to look like and have in it. So he's
Yeah,
got
so we've got the site plan pulled up on screen. We got 4 bids with Ethos Contracting being the low bid. We were pleased with the 4 bids we got. The site plan generally, this is Lynn Lane right here. We'll extend the multi-use path across the city property all the way to Gentry Sign. This will be a new parking area on the south side. This right here is a splash pad, about 4,000 square feet. The playground area here, the play area is about 16,000 square feet, which to put it in perspective, The play area on the east side of the ditch is about 3,000, so it's roughly 5 times what the size of the play area over here is. This fenced-in area will be a divided dog park area with a dog washing station, a little more new parking, and then the 10-foot multi-use path will go from Lynn Lane all the way through the park to Long Meadow. The entire road will be milled and overlaid. That's about it.
And it came in under the anticipated budget, right?
Yes, we had estimated 7 million and they came in 6.7.
So that's good news.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you very much. Just wanted everybody to get kind of a look at what it's going to be.
Yeah, the one thing on with the board item, we had put in the item set down to only accept alternates 2 and 3, which were the pedestrian bridges, and the board item reads accepting all 3. The first one was the sign out front, which we were not going to accept at this time because we're working on a separate package for that.
Okay, so we need to, Lisa, would you modify that to reflect, why don't you just put in there, add alts, what, 2 and 3?
2 and 3.
Yeah, just make it, add alts 2 and 3. Okay, great. Can we put that on consent? Everybody good with that?
Consent.
Okay, good. All right, then we have consideration of alcohol and drug impaired grant for, it's 100% reimbursable, so for 122,122. Consent for that one? All right. And then another 100% reimbursable hotspot policing grant, so consent for that one, okay. And then the police traffic services grant for continuation project of traffic services enforcement. What exactly is that, Chief? I see.
Seatbelt grant,
That's the seatbelt grant?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, oops, there, if I'd read all the way down, I would have seen it. Okay, consent for that one? All
I'll
right.
call myself out, since I called you out earlier. I got stopped for the seatbelt grant a few years ago, so.
I
It
have
was,
been stopped multiple times for that issue.
Are you allowed to be an alderman?
I don't think it's a felony, so, and it was my husband, not me, but I was in the car, so.
Okay. All right, then sanitation department, request approval for consideration to begin the process to advertise for a residential rear loader. Is that to replace the one that got burned? Yes, it is. So we decided to.
The new one- the new
decided-
one
Just
that
so
got
know,
burned.
that truck is still on fire.
I know it
currently.
is. I
I got
know
a
it
phone
is.
call from a guy that has a business
Yes.
complaining to
Yes.
me about it being on fire.
Well,
still.
and Alderman Vaughn was in West Point yesterday, and he told me that it was, he saw it still
Still
burning too. So, anyway, when it's done being a crispy critter, we deal with it through insurance, but this is an opportunity for us to see about replacing it. So, consent for this one?
Consent, Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Smiley, this is what you want?
I'm okay with it. No, what do you want?
I'll get what you want.
The way we drew this one up, it does not specify what type of truck or whatever, it just begins the process to replace it.
What do you want?
What does that, well, wait a minute, hold on. So what does that mean from a perspective of beginning the process? What are we talking about? Just exploring what you need to replace it?
Well, it's a situation to where, as long as we had to understand that we're gonna replace it, because it's a situation where it's a need.
Okay. all
If it's a
right.
stock-built truck, or you custom spec this out like a fire truck you'd spec out?
Well, you have a couple of different options. I just need the permission to go in pursuit of those options.
You got a certain kind of truck you want in front of it, like Freightliner versus something
Okay.
else or
It's
something
an
else? or what?
emergency.
What, I mean,
It's not an emergency.
I'm sure you have an opinion on that kind of stuff, right?
Oh, yes.
Spec it out like you think it ought to be. And we'll just see what the cost, I mean.
Okay, it doesn't seem to me that we need an agenda item to begin the process. I don't understand why we need an agenda item to begin the
I
process.
thought it would get him prepared to go ahead and start, and it removes the other truck from the inventory.
Okay, well now that's a different story, but to me, you can begin looking at whatever you want to and just bring it to the board. This is what I want. And then we go advertise for what you want. So from my perspective, if you want to take it as an item to remove the 2014 from inventory, that makes perfect sense. But you're free to go look at what you want to get and bring it to the board to advertise for that particular truck without us approving that, as far as I'm concerned. Is there a reason that we have to do that?
And we were just trying to hurry up the process to get the ad drawn up and then come back in 2 weeks. That was just my thinking, was just trying to hurry up the
Okay,
process.
well.
To give him permission, so he didn't just come back and say, here's the truck,
And-
I'm
and-
out running an ad.
And we weren't surprised.
We weren't surprised. Just-
Okay, well, you're still gonna have to advertise for it, right?
Yes, we'll have to approve.
Yeah, so,
Alderman Vaughn, are
Yeah.
you referring to the emergency?
Hmm?
Are you referring to the emergency item that I don't think it qualifies? I know that we had talked about it yesterday. Chris?
No, it's not an emergency.
It doesn't qualify, but you do have a truck that they're bringing from Houston, Texas next week for you to look at, correct, in Columbus?
That's an option. I got several options.
Okay,
That's
and
an
they're
option.
what, a 30-day, anywhere from 30 to 90 days as far as getting it here?
That-
Once
that-
we make that approval to purchase it?
Yeah, that's an option, but first I gotta get the board to approve for me to go towards those options. So that's the only thing this part was, I haven't advertised for a garbage truck.
Okay.
So can
Well,
we
no.
approve him to go?
Yeah, well, I didn't think, yes, that's fine, we'll just do it.
He's a partner here, let him explore his own option.
Well,
Let
no,
him do
absolutely.
What he need to do.
I-
We ain't gotta get out there and drive it.
That's fact, although I might like to, that might be kind of fun, but,
Mr. Smiley, it's a comparable rear loader type, what you be looking for, is a comparable, I mean, the rear loader type truck, right?
Yes, sir.
You might have some different, some
We're
different
looking
features
for a
to it.
comparable 25-yard Freightliner International Peterbilt as far as your chassis and then your body. You have different options from New Way, Gale to Pac-Man.
Very good.
all right. Consent for this one? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, cause say, go get it, go do what you need.
Yes. Okay, utilities. Mr. Kemp, anything you wish to share with us about any of this?
We just, we did RFP for consulting services.
This is
consulting
what we
companies.
I authorized you to do at the last board meeting, right?
A few
Or
board
a
meetings
couple
ago,
meet-
yeah, we
okay.
received a lot of interest in it, and we're recommending to select this group as companies we can enter into a master services agreement that we can use for future projects as they come along. And main reason we want to do this is to go through the public procurement process on hiring a professional, in the case that when we do hire them, they'll be eligible for reimbursement of grant dollars.
Well, we've done this before. This is a renewal, basically?
This is, well, we have done master services
Right.
agreements, but this is, these are all, I guess, new.
Okay, all right, but they're under master services agreements
Yes,
that
ma'am.
we've done before. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
consent for that?
Consent.
Okay. Renewing the software for the CCTV truck, consent for that one?
Consent.
Authorization to advertise for bids for the steel transmission structures and appurtenances. We have appurtenances. For what? For just where?
This
Which-
is for
which-
the automated switching there at the MSU.
At the MSU? Okay, that was what I was wondering, was where. Okay, consent for that one? And low quotes for replacing the mini excavator and trailer, which we definitely need.
Consent.
Consent for that one? All right, that takes us to the end of the agenda, and I clearly did not communicate with Mr. Aaron very well this morning, so we will call us done. Anything else before we adjourn? All right, thank you, everyone, appreciate it.
Chris.